Well, greetings viewers and voyeurs, Got That Funk here. And I'm responding to a video tag which was started by my friend Annika Garrett. How you doing, Annika? First thing I did this morning. I suppose I should be embarrassed, but I'm not really. I woke up with a great big stonker, and I had to get rid of it. I couldn't do anything until I got rid of it, you know what I mean? So there you go. First person I spoke to today was my dear friend Miranda, whose flat I'm currently staying in for a couple of weeks. First person I texted today, same friend. Um, she just texted me a minute ago. Anyway, my first best friend. That was way back 40 years ago. I met my best friend. We're still friends now. His name is Berkeley, and he lives in California, where I come from. We're in contact still and have never fallen out of contact. We've never fallen out. We've never so much as spoken a harsh word to each other in 40 years. So it's safe to say we're going to be friends for the duration. My first pet, I had to think about that because normally when I answer this question, I always think my dog Rebel was my first pet, but then I remember that that was my first dog. My first pet, I can't remember which came first. I had a little turtle that lived in an aquarium um, for a while, but I also had a parakeet called Tweety, and I can't remember which one came first. I have a feeling Tweety might have come first, so I'll just have to say Tweety. First movie I ever saw at a cinema. Well, I'm embarrassed to admit this. The first movie I ever saw at the cinema was Mary Poppins. I might have seen a movie before that, but that's certainly the first movie I remember seeing in the cinema. And I'm old enough to have seen that movie in the cinema in a drive-in movie in America when it was brand new. Yeah. My first girlfriend, well, my first declared girlfriend, I suppose, that I actually considered to be my girlfriend, um, was, ooh, hmm, no. I think her name was Jill, and she went to the same school as me. But I'm not really sure if you can count that as a girlfriend because all we did was walk around holding hands together. We never even kissed each other. I was too embarrassed. I was afraid I'd get it wrong. Um, my first actual girlfriend, where I did kiss someone and so on, and who knew I was her boyfriend and she knew she was my girlfriend because there was a couple of misunderstandings before that. Her name was Stacy. And yeah, I really loved her once upon a time. I'm pretty sure she loved me too. First snog, that was a girl called Jessica. And yeah, I was 16 years old at the time, so a bit of a late starter, what some people might say. My first concert, that was 1978, and that was a triple bill. The opening act was a guy called Moon Martin. Uh, the second one was the Pat Travers Band, and the main attraction was Cheap Trick. It was a really good show. I had VIP seats for it, and we sat next to a couple of rock stars, including the guitarist from the band Journey, which I was all excited about at the time. Not a bad concert either. Anyway, right, my first detention. I think I mentioned this once upon a time in a video long ago. We were having an assembly at my school when I was about 10 years old. My principal, or head teacher, as you would say, um, had gone on a trip around the world and had traveled to the Soviet Union as part of his trip, and he came back to tell us why the Soviets were our enemies. And after his little speech, he asked for if anyone had questions, and I stood up and said, "How do I know the Russians are my enemy? I've never met a Russian." And I was told not to be a smart aleck, and I got a detention for that. I think that might be the only time I ever got a detention. First broken bone, this one right here. I'm not sure if that's the radius or the ulna. I never can remember. I think it's the radius. Um, but yeah, I broke that one. Basically, my dad pushed me down too hard onto the ground and trying to break my fall, my arm broke instead. So that. My first piercing, well, I assume you mean body piercing as opposed to just your typical ear piercings, but if you mean ear piercings, it was my left ear. Got the lobe pierced in February of 1994. So I would have been coming up on 32 by then. My first actual body piercing was a couple years later in February of '96, I got my right nipple pierced. And at the moment, I think I've got 23 piercings. The most I've ever had was 31 at one point. Anyway, my first alcoholic drink, I think it was pretty much everything. When I was 10 years old, I had a bit of a drinking disaster. A friend of mine who was someone I sort of just met, our parents decided to throw us all together and share the same babysitter to minimize their babysitting costs, which was a huge mistake because we just got up to mischief. And I was 10, this guy was 13 that I was drinking with, and we finished an entire case of Budweiser. That's 24 12-ounce cans. We also drank literally every open bottle of spirits in the house. So there was like a fully stocked bar in the house, and we drank the open bottle of vodka but left the other one. We drank a bottle of whiskey that was open. We drank a bottle of dark rum that was open, but there wasn't much in that one. We drank a bottle of white rum that was open. And so I think in total, if you count the spirits, the liqueurs, and the liquor, the hard alcohol, I'm pretty sure I drank about a gallon of alcohol that night. Probably a little bit more than that. It's a miracle that I didn't die. And I think that episode might have served as something of a bit of aversion therapy for me, because even though I'm not afraid to drink and I will enjoy a social drink once in a while, I almost never get drunk anymore. I used to get drunk when I was a young man for a while, but I never really liked it that much. I think since the turn of the century, Annika, I've probably been drunk 5 or 6 times. So yeah, I'm not a big drinker, and I think it's because of that experience. My first job, well, my very first employed job was, believe it or not, I used to have to burn cardboard boxes for a living. I worked at a local supermarket, and everything, all the stock comes delivered in cardboard boxes of one description or another. And back behind the supermarket in those days, they had several sort of big oil drum cans that they used to burn all the cardboard in to get rid of it. My first car, well, there's two answers to that. My first car that I ever sort of drove around on a regular basis was actually my parents' car. Used to call it the Red Devil. It was a 1969 Chevy Malibu station wagon, and it was red, obviously. And in order to overcome the severe uncool of driving a station wagon, I folded down the rear seat and put a bed in the back, thinking that made me cool. Um, I don't think it was very successful. The first car I ever owned that was in my own name was a 1978 Ford Pinto, and I'm pretty sure that's the only Ford I ever owned. My first airplane journey was, I think, at the age of 10 or 11. I went on a plane from Reno, Nevada to Boise, Idaho to visit with my aunt and uncle who lived up in Garden Valley in Idaho. Beautiful part of the country. The first wedding I ever attended was my mom and dad's wedding, and by dad I mean my stepdad. They got married when I was 5 years old, and yeah, that was also the first time I ever really saw anybody get drunk. All the adults at the reception to that wedding were absolutely smashed, and as a 5-year-old kid, I really didn't quite know what to make of that. My first flatmate, well, I the first flat I ever lived in where I paid rent and had roommates. I had two roommates. I had one called John and one called Nathan. They were both hardcore Christian evangelists, determined to convert me. And they offered me a room in their apartment. Not just to convert me, but I think that was part of the plan, yeah. It didn't work. My first YouTube channel, you are watching it. Gothatfunk is my first YouTube channel. I do have quite a few other channels though. I've got a backup channel, which is Beware the Funk 69. I've got a couple of comedy channels, one of which everybody knows about, called Mercurial Movies. I've got another comedy channel, which is kind of a secret, which might seem counterintuitive. Why do you have a YouTube channel that you keep secret? And the reason would be apparent if you saw the videos on there. It's a comedy channel. I don't show my face on it, and I don't really let very many people know about it. I find it interesting when you have a channel that you don't necessarily really advertise, where the fucking views come from. I don't know, but yeah, it manages to get views anyway. My first YouTube video was called My Delusion of Grandeur, in which I pretend that I think I am the one who created the entire cosmos, and you, and everybody. Yeah. If you're gonna have a grand illusion, make it a fucking grand illusion. God. That suits me just fine. Anyway, Annika, sorry, oops, well, reverted to your old channel name there. Thank you for this tag, and thank you to everybody who decided to watch this video. It went on way longer than I meant it to. Until next time, y'all, have a great day, and may all your ups and downs be ups.